Yes, yes. Welcome in. It's Balloon Party 101 ESPN. My name is Timothy Mike McKernan. That's Jackson Bennett Burkett. And this is a program that today is giving away money. That's what we're doing. What do you got? Win Terry's money on NFL on Fox, am I right?
That sounds
what
right.
It was?
I thought that, that might have been a little before my time. I'm not sure.
It's still going on right now.
Are they still doing that segment?
Yeah, I think so. And I feel like Howie Long pops up with them and they win Terry's money by picking games. Well, today's Win Timmy's money. Win Timmy's money with a deep dive topic via the Air Comfort Service text line, 314-399-9646, or the YouTube chat, Balloon Party Mafia. Go in there and I'll scroll after the first segment. I'm in the mood to tell you a story. Come here, audience. Sit on my lap. Oh. How's it feel? Good. Now, listen to this deep dive that somebody is going to win $50 for. $50, because I was giving it out to two female listeners calling into TMA and then none called in. So from my standpoint, we're still in the black numbers on my P&L. So what are we going to do with that? We're going to redistribute it. I know you're like always, you want to redistribute wealth. That's what you always say in the commercial breaks. So I said, let's redistribute it to the Balloon Party audience. And that's what we're going to do. Somebody's going to get $50 for a deep dive topic today. Will you be able to execute? Jackson has. He executed a Thursday thoroughfare here on 101 ESPN. Not easy to do either. But what has he got for you?
Jim Bowden. He wrote his...
Did you say Bowden or Bowden? I think it's Bowden.
Really?
I think it's Bowden, because your inclination after seeing Bobby Bowden is Bowden, and then I always tell but we've had so much trouble with Arenado and Arenado.
Right.
I don't know anymore. I don't know who I am.
If it was
who am I? Bud Fox, Wall Street, 1987, Charlie Sheen.
Yeah, Anacott Steele.
Yeah, Blue Horseshoe.
I think if the W was a U, I would feel more comfortable. That W kind of throws me off.
All right.
Bow,
Maybe we can do a deep dive on that.
That would be interesting. The reporter formerly known as Jim.
Nice. Real nice.
Wrote his 2024 MLB season predictions in The Athletic and has the Cardinals, drumroll please,
What?
under 84.5 wins.
Yeah, he only went through 6 teams, and he loved the over on the Dodgers at 103.5, the Braves at 101.5, and the Astros at 93.5. But the first team he listed taking the under on, the Cardinals at 84.5. He likes the under, and he said the only needle-moving move they made, Jackson, Sonny Gray. Other than that, it's an old rotation, with Gray being the only pitcher projected to have an ERA under 4. He says this team wins 80 to 84 games max.
Yeah. So my question is, based on that,
yes,
let's look at it from both sides of a pessimist and an optimist.
Okay.
What would you say the pessimist would say about this upcoming season for the Cardinals that would say under 84.5 wins? And what would the optimist say for the Cardinals to get over 84.5
Well,
wins?
this is kind of new information that goes back to Sonny Gray's injury, but that he has a hamstring issue that nags throughout the course of the year, reducing his effectiveness and number of innings logged. Lance Lynn is more Los Angeles Dodger than the number of other previous teams that he pitched for way more effectively. He was not great with the Dodgers. And Steven Matz is more the guy he's been throughout his career, and not that month before he was done last year. And then on top of it, Paul Goldschmidt is actually in the decline phase, and it's carrying over from 2023. And some of the young players who you would think would improve in their second years do not. So then the bullpen doesn't. And I just don't. I would not touch that over under. I know you're going to flip to the positive on it, but just in general, my first inclination is I feel like the Cardinal over under at 84.5 is right in the sweet spot to a point that I would not want to touch it. And that is not I will not take a stand thing. We were vocal, for example, with Missouri football, loving the over this past year. I did not expect, what did they wind up, 11-2, right? 10-2 regular season, 11-2 with the Ohio State win. I mean, I didn't see that, but I just looked at the schedule, and 6.5 struck me as they're going over that. I'll be honest with you right now, I'd take the under on 9.5 this year. I don't like it, but I'm just telling you, if I had to bet it, I won't bet it, but if I had to bet it, that's where I would go. So I look at things through that prism and try to take the emotion out of it. But with the Cardinals, 84.5. I would stay away from that one, Jackson. Now, what was your second question? You were going on the negative side. Now you're going to go on the positive side? Is that right?
Yeah, so you kind of just gave what the pessimistic Cardinal fan might say to say under 84.5. Now, the optimistic Cardinal fan, what would they say to say, hey, I think this team will go over 84.5?
Well, Sonny Gray pitches like he did last year. The hamstring is just something that was a blip on the radar in spring and was really not a big deal. So he fires. Miles Mikolas regains form. Nolan Arenado regains form. Paul Goldschmidt regains form. They have a number of pitchers in the bullpen that not all have to hit, whether it be Helsley and Gallegos regaining form. Kittredge is a real asset. JoJo Romero winds up being a high-leverage pitcher that perhaps you would not think of at this particular moment. Kenyon Middleton, they lead to a formidable bullpen, and the veterans eat up innings, and the bullpen takes care of the rest, kind of a Kansas City Royals model of sorts from a decade-ish ago. And then Mason Wynn kills it, running like crazy. Jordan Walker figures it out in his second year, and, away they go.
Yeah, and in all likelihood, it's probably a mix of both. All of that stuff. There's going to be some parts of the pessimistic view of it that will come to fruition, and there'll probably be stuff of the optimistic side that will come to fruition. The question is, can they buy back essentially the 14 or 15 games they would need from last year?
And that's where Bowden is just like I just don't see it.
Yeah, and I don't blame him for being so. I just to me it strikes me as like I have a little bit of both. Like I don't think Arenado and Goldschmidt are going to be exactly what they were in 2022, but I definitely don't think they're going to be what they were in 2023. And I don't think that all of the young guys are going to progress to a point where we want to see it. But I think if you consider 4 or 5 of them, 2 or 3 very well could. Pitching is obviously just a big X factor. If they can improve pitching-wise, then anything is on the table. But if they have the same thing with both the bullpen starters as they did last year, then under 84.5 seems like a lock.
Well, your thoughts are welcome. Would you go over or under on that? 314-399-9646. And we, of course, have the YouTube chat, the Air Alliance team, sponsor of our studio cameras on 101, ESPN's YouTube channel, where you can interact with many of the members of Balloon Party's Mafia. The Balloon Party Mafia, Jackson. They're in there, and they're active. And then, again, you're going to get $50 in your Venmo if your question or your comment or your story request is selected for today's deep dive. I'm in the mood for a deep dive.
Yeah.
I'm in the mood for love.
Aren't we all?
I don't know. I feel like you're a man in love. You're not soliciting. I mean, we get obviously a lot of women and a decent number of guys want to go out with us on this show.
No, definitely. Yeah, I am. I'm not looking for it.
Right, man in love.
Marty monogamy, as I've said before. But right now,
I'm Perry polyamory.
Listen, now is like the time though. Like weather's getting warmer. Baseball season's
about to.
Polyamory. Well, I guess any time really, but like now is the probably like some of the best time of the year. When you look at it from like.
Are you talking about from a sports perspective?
No, from like just a general, but like sports is part of it because the Cardinals are about to start up. Warmer weather means people are getting outside.
The tournament.
You want to talk about the big dance? I mean, locally, unless you're an IL fan. Yeah. There's a lot to look forward to.
Stanley Cup playoffs.
Right, like we're like in the.
This is dopamine season for me.
Right, exactly.
This is when I'm at my most polyamorous.
Yeah, and so to see the Balloon Party Mafia out in strength to
and
me,
polyamorous themselves.
Yeah.
Very polyamorous.
If you can send in both a deep dive request and a story of polyamory.
Wow.
I mean,
wow.
I'll even chip in.
Look at you. Look at Jackson. Look at this. Look at that. He went roof daddy. All right, 1012 in St. Louis. I'm going to go into the Air Comfort Service text line. If you want to make sure that I read your personal attack, now is the time because I'm going in there, 314-399-9646, and in the YouTube chat. And then I'm going to say, hey, we found one, Jackson. We found ourselves a Jim Dandy. And then I'm going to ask that person for their Venmo. And the next thing they know, they're going to have $50 in their account. And maybe with a little kissy emoji from me.
Oh,
you can read into that what you want. That's up to you. I don't care. I'm Perry polyamory.
Perry.
You like that?
That's a good. We need to bring back
Perry Como.
Perry Como. Kansas basketball used to have a player named Perry Ellis who seemed to play there for like 10 years. Right. Not to be confused with the clothing designer. It's a whole thing.
No, is that right?
Yeah.
The Cardinals had Gerald Perry.
There we go.
And Dave Duncan got in a fight with him when he was a Pirates coach.
Really?
Yeah.
Coaches need to scrap more.
All right.
I remember
Stubby Clapp and Pete Alonso.
Yeah, boy, as Stubby was, he was the underdog on that fighting card.
Boy, Tiny Peepy's trying to get the $50. I see he's active in there.
Working.
A.J. Brown of the Eagles says there's Banny Roosters in here today.
Is that
I
right?
don't know. I'm going to have to check and see what's doing in the commercial break. Yeah. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Somebody's going to get $50. At least somebody should. We'll see.
One would think.
We'll find out. It's coming up. Balloon Party, 101 ESPN. Well, we got a winner, Jackson. And you know what? Anybody listening to this show, They're the winners.
That's right.
You're hearing my voice. Win. It's Balloon Party 101 ESPN. My name is Timothy Michael McKernan. Act like you didn't know. That's Jackson Bennett Burkett. I think we got a winner. Now, there was a guy, Brad from Waterloo, who was demanding that you break down the Blues trade deadline targets. In other words, other ice hockey teams' potential prospects. And you kind of saying, if it made more sense to do business with Carolina or Vegas or maybe the Rangers, and Buchnevich goes back to New York. And I know you studied his time with the blue shirts. But that's not the one that we're going to go with, even though it was kind of my vote. We do have a winner. This person's going to get $50. If you can text this person while I'm telling the stories and giving my answers to get the Venmo handle. So I want to send this money right away.
Yeah.
Lannisters pay their debts?
Yeah, Lannister always pays their debts.
Thank you. Jackson, the question you have selected, please.
Deep dive for you boys. How do sportsbooks manage to get numbers, specifically over and unders, so close to the actual number of the game, and also some of the worst beats for you in gambling?
All right. I like this question because it goes into a topic that I don't think we've necessarily talked much about. I don't even know if people know much about, per se. Not to say that I do know, as in like italicizing the word know. And then also gambling horror stories, which is something that many, including myself, have. And you're welcome to share yours here on the program. Air Comfort Service text line 314-399-9646. And then also, you're welcome to share those in the YouTube chat. And those cameras sponsored by Air Alliance team for our YouTube feed on the 101 ESPN channel. So with regard to numbers that are set by sportsbooks, I think there is I oftentimes, Vegas know, Vegas know as if like there's something nefarious going on. And even though I have either bet or observed numbers for, I can go back, I can picture back to high school. So now, therefore, I'm going back 30 years. The most eye-opening element of numbers for me, and I won't even call it gambling because I'm not necessarily even gambling. I just like to see where numbers are because I know that there is mathematical science to it and statistics and probability, to be specific. Is a friend of mine who I believe I've talked a little bit about on this show, and I know I've talked about on TMA and the Tim McKernan Show podcast, and I just call him the Wizard. And a couple of things stand out to me. He was a guy working, he's not a guy who had a bunch of money and then just goes, okay, I'm going to take whatever pick you would say is a large amount to try to start playing daily fantasy. I asked him how he got going. And he goes, well, I just love sports, and I also am a math nerd, and so I combined my love of these two to build an algorithm, and he has become a millionaire to the point that he has so much money that a tax attorney told him, you just got a bunch of cash sitting here. You don't have to, but you ought to do something with it, make that money work for you. And it was as, quote unquote, simple as, and now this is something I could never do. I think I tried to study it to try to get, I'm like, okay, I don't want to say I figured out poker, but I became a winning poker player. It wasn't that tough. I mean, it wasn't like I was Phil Ivey, but I became profitable. I couldn't do what he does. It's something that just my brain doesn't fire that way, but essentially it's building out an algorithm, and it's all about projections. And so he is now somebody who cannot bet at places. He is not allowed to bet at places because it's almost like counting cards, except it's sports gambling. Yeah. And he is really specialized in daily fantasy sports. And the thing that is most eye-opening to me is how accurate the Las Vegas numbers, we'll call it the Las Vegas number, even though it's not limited to Las Vegas anymore, but how active these Las Vegas numbers are. And it's not just totals, although this person requested totals. It can be team win totals. It can be a game spread in particular. Like betting sides right now is something that, in the opinion of sharp sports gamblers, more often than not, is a square thing to do. And by that I mean it's something like the casual bettor who doesn't really research goes, oh my God, Missouri's, only a 10-point underdog at Georgia. Oh, I love Georgia. The betting sides, there isn't a lot of Positive EV, expected value, is what that stands for. I'm going to try to keep this above nerddom. The actual spot where you can have, we'll just call it more favorable climate, is props, player props. That's where these guys have an edge right now. Now, with all of that said, it is eye-opening to me as a sports fan, and also someone who's done this for a living since leaving the University of Missouri, to see how accurate the projections are. And I don't go, oh, it's rigged. That's not, I mean, that you can do that and you'll probably get some social media engagement, but just how accurate the data is in projecting the outcomes is alarming to me. I'm awestruck by guys' ability and ladies' ability to be able to run algorithms and hit. But of course, Las Vegas is doing the same thing. And I continue to say Las Vegas when it's, the house really that I'm talking about. So how they do it, my answer is they build out an algorithm, and odds are it is within, a standard deviation of reason that allows them to be profitable to bettors who don't follow it that closely or run those kinds of analytics. And those people make them profitable. And then they find the people who have cracked the code, and then they don't allow them to bet. And then those people then hire what are called runners to place the bets for them. Billy Walters, right? That's his name? Billy Walters?
The guy who wrote the book.
Yeah, I just read his book at the end of last year.
Right.
Which really it seemed more like a grievance project against Phil Mickelson, but he also told his story about how he, beat Las Vegas, but Las Vegas wasn't taking his bets. He just would have to hire runners because he wasn't allowed to bet. And a runner is somebody who they don't know, but then Billy Walters, for example, would deploy and say, okay, you place this bet right now at this number. Can't be, it's 3 at this book. If it goes to 3.5, don't touch it. It's got to be 3, and you put this much in. And he's all over the place. And it's all math. It's not, the moment I'm sitting with somebody at a poker table, and I've done it a lot, played in, I think, 5 World Series of Poker main events. Not that I was anything special by any means. If I hear somebody, unless they're giving off like a false tell to know that it's like a tell that they're weak or square or bad at the game, I guess, to just be more direct, is I just had a feeling a jack was coming. You go, let me get in a pot with this guy.
Yeah.
We're going to get this guy. Well, of course, he could be operating on another level and going, if I say this, then certain players are going to recognize I'm a dumbass and I'm going to outplay them at some point because I have it in my artillery to play at a higher mathematical level. This sounds, I don't know how it comes off. It's very abstract, but this is the way that it works.
Yeah.
It's just a very dumbed down version of the way that it works. But once you become aware of how this works, it's, I don't know if I would call it scary. It's just stunning.
Yeah.
It is stunning. Every week. For example, here's a story. I think it was last year or 2 years ago. Xander Schauffele missed like an 8-foot putt. And had he made the putt, this gentleman I speak of would have won $300,000. He would have been first place in a contest on DraftKings. And he missed the putt. And I said, and we were just BSing later that night because I know, having gotten knocked out of poker tournaments, it's not like you want to start talking about it right away. You got to come down. And we were BSing about it. And I go, I got to ask you, how are you doing? He goes, it's all right. I know I'll win, so it sucks in that sense. But, my projections were right.
Yeah.
He just missed the putt. And from 7 feet, he's going to make that putt 52% of the time. But 48% of the time he's not. He didn't make the putt. It wasn't like it was some 1%, horrible thing. And when you're so confident because it's not rooted in, I found my proper swing thought or I had my proper arm angle, it's math, then you don't freak out over a bad beat.
Yeah, process is more important than the result.
And he knows he's got the process, so he doesn't care. Don't get me wrong. He would have rather, I think he wound up winning 50 instead of 300 or 75 instead of 300. And it's just so sociopathic in the emotion because it's so void of emotion.
Yeah.
It's absolutely void of intuition. There are plenty of these podcasts out there now with touts guys who just don't know. Because if they do know, they're making so much money that the last thing they're going to do is like bust out a podcast in what some might say is a crowded marketplace and make like maybe, who knows, a couple $100 if they're lucky doing the podcast.
Right. And
then also sharing secrets.
Yeah.
They're going to keep the method and the recipe internal. Now, with that all established, more and more people are cracking the code, making the game sharper and sharper and tougher to beat. But it's math. And so this same math is the same thing that makes many Cardinal fans who think of John Mozeliak as like the enemy because it's math. But there are a bunch of organizations doing this, if not all of them. And I guess you could say it was the moneyballing of baseball. But this is organizations well beyond baseball. But then when I see how accurate it is, and I see how it works, and again, I can't do it, but I see it, and I go, oh my goodness, I mean, it's eye-opening. And I don't know when this started as far as other sports. I went back to Moneyball with the A's and baseball, but it is so accurate. And again, it's not absolute, but you give them a large sample size. For example, maybe 1 out of 100 people will know the name Jake Knapp in this audience, but he won a tournament on the PGA Tour a couple weeks ago. And I was doing my research in a little golf pool I'm in. I'm like, hey, what about Jake Knapp this weekend? And he goes, no, he's certainly live. He goes, the only issue is he was Korn Ferry last year, which is the AAA of PGA Tour. And I don't have enough data on him yet as far as shot link data to dial in the numbers. But, it would be straight intuition, and I don't make plays based on intuition. It's all based on projections, and they stick to them, and they're so accurate. Certainly, there's also, if you do a win total like the Cardinals, 84.5. Well, if Sonny Gray and Nolan Arenado miss 5 months, then you go, well, what about that win total? Well, did something material happen, or multiple things substantially affecting the outcome? Well, of course, yes. Now you can do that, and again, be my guest, but the point being, I've now seen enough of this to go, holy crap, it's real. And it is, I don't know what percentage of sports fans are aware of it, but essentially these guys who are successful sports gamblers and daily fantasy sports players are not necessarily doing this based on sports knowledge. They're doing it based on math.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. You could almost say that, like, not having the sports knowledge completely takes the emotion out of it. Like I think some people think of like handicappers or sharps in their head, and they think Ace Rothstein in Casino.
Sam Ace Rothstein, Bobby De Niro.
Well, what did Pesci say? Like, oh, he knows whose girlfriend's sleeping with who and what quarterback's on narcotics. And that's like what you might think of. But these real sharps are not looking like Ace Rothstein smoking a cigarette in the Vegas casino. They're more like a couple guys with finance or statistics degrees, just making models and building out algorithms that are going to tell them the math, which is so much more important than, what some people might think of, oh, this team hasn't won in this city in this many weeks. Like that stuff is less important than where is the math? What are the algorithms showing?
And it's, like I said, I had no idea. I mean, up until, I guess, I don't know when I became aware of it, I guess about 4 or 5 years ago. And I would love to be able to do it because, again, he's gone from just being, quote unquote, a guy working a standard job to a multimillionaire with and he started up businesses because what are you going to do something with that money? And it's just based on building out daily fantasy sports lineups. Doesn't really gamble per se. I remember there was one time, this isn't a bad beat story, it's a couple years ago, and I was just BSing with him about, I think we might have played golf earlier in the day, and I said, oh, I'd love it if you had a play for me. And like a day or two later, he texted me, he goes, hey, I was just doing my models for Major League Baseball tonight, and he goes, somehow they really messed up the price on the over-under in Oakland. It's not like the Cardinals were there. He just runs them for all the games. And that game's going to go over, 73% of the time. So, just so you know, and then sure enough, it went over like in the second inning, and it's based on a lot of that. That is based on weather, wind, pitchers, what the pitcher, who he specializes against, who he's weak against, what his pitching repertoire is, his last 30 days statistics. I mean, all these things and then they stick all of this into some kind of algorithm. They weight certain statistics more. That's how they differentiate. I'm talking, and some of you who do actually build algorithms, I'm sure listening to this going, oh my God, this guy's in kindergarten, or maybe even lesser relative to what it is that we do. I just, and then part of it also becomes game theory. And by that, I mean, okay, everybody's on this player. I don't know who everybody was on this week. Probably Scotty Scheffler at Bay Hill.
Yeah.
So therefore, you can't play Scotty Scheffler because your chances of winning are lessened. And so these guys hit when the randoms win that the public isn't on. I don't know. It's exhausting mentally, and it may be difficult to describe. All I can tell you is it's real. All right, what are your worst beat stories? I would love to hear. I'm sure I'm going to read one that's going to make my stomach drop. You got one? Well, I'm going to take a break.
Let's tease.
314-399-9646. You can share our Comfort Service text line. Because I'm telling you, I don't know why. Probably because I've never messed around with narcotics. I mean, besides chronic at picnics. So when people tell horror stories about drugs, it's a little distant for me. I feel like gambling, because it can encompass everything anyway. That's where it hits home for me with a horror story. So you got a bad beat story, a gambling horror story, feel free. 314-399-9646. Or you can participate in the YouTube chat on the 101 ESPN channel on YouTube. This is Balloon Party, driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN.
This is Action Jackson with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Blues are back in action tonight as they take on the New Jersey Devils. You can catch that game right here on the home of the Blues, 101 ESPN pregame at 5 p.m., puck drop at 6 p.m. And last night, the Clippers defeat the Rockets 122-116. Kawhi Leonard with 28 points. That was another Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff. Find new roads and shop 24/7 at londoff.com and LondoffAutoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
Welcome back. This is Balloon Party 101 ESPN. We're in the midst of a deep dive, degenerate gambling, and bad beat stories coming in. And Jackson, you gasped when discussing one bad beat story. Do you have a bad beat that stands out?
Personally, nothing that would really blow people away. I mean, we've all had something where you bet the under and the over hits by 1 point. That's going to happen. I've talked about it before. I had the opposite of a bad beat where I had saving grace. This past football season, I had the over of 7.5 or 10.5 in a Chiefs Packers game, and there's 9.5. Over for the first quarter total was 9.5. Packers score a quick touchdown. I'm thinking, we're in great shape. Chiefs have 10 minutes to score a touchdown. It gets down to the very last few seconds of the first quarter. I need a field goal at least to get me over the number.
Please, Harrison Butker.
Please, Harrison. They're taking forever to get him out in the field. They snap the ball. There are triple zeros on the clock. There is no reason they should have let the snap go off, but somehow they did. Nails the field goal. We go over.
Wow. And you had your standard $10,000?
Yeah, that was easy money.
Just one unit?
Yeah, that was easy money. But I looked up some of the worst beats in sports gambling history.
Oh, wow.
And I got one here that is...
What do we got?
All right, Tim.
It's like you can be Stanford Steve and I'll be Scott Van Pelt.
Mets Braves, 1999 NLCS.
Oh, this is the Robin Ventura home run, is it not?
Game 5 of the NLCS had an over-under of 7.5.
Okay.
With the score 3-3, New York had the bases loaded in the bottom of the 15th inning.
This is an all-time classic.
Leaving gamblers assuming the worst, since just a single run would end the game. But then Robin Ventura hit a grand slam, which meant 4 runs would score, except the Mets mobbed Ventura before he could get to second base, and only 1 run counted.
Wow.
That's got to be the worst.
I would love to hear from somebody who had either side on that and an amount of money that mattered. There was a game in college. I would prefer to. I mean, I got a bad beat poker story, but anybody who's played poker has got a bad beat poker story. It happens to be a 1-outer in a World Series event. But this is a good one. Nobody wants to hear good happening to me. But it was 30 years ago, so you didn't know you hated me yet. I'm in college. At Jackson, I believe I was a sophomore or was I a junior? Do you remember?
I think you're a junior.
I think you're right. And I had gotten in deep. And I'm sure some of you know exactly what I'm talking about, where you're like, it's Thursday night football, just sitting around. I'll throw something on, whatever. What is it, relatively speaking, and everybody's bet size is different, as we just found out. Yours is, your unit size is 10,000.
Yeah.
But for me, a meat and potatoes guy, if I'm going to bet $1 on a game, it's going to, I'll have the family gathered around. So I Thursday night football didn't go well. Saturday during the day didn't go well in college football. Saturday late afternoon, Saturday night, probably bet on a Hawaii game.
Oh, the worst.
Oh, yeah, that's when you know you're in deep. You're in deep. Noon NFL didn't go well. 3 p.m. NFL didn't go well. And whatever it was, I think it was to the point that, and again, this is college. So this is talking dollars during the 1930s. I mean, the dollar value is different. Okay. But either way, if this were going on right now, it would give me a hell of a sweat. Much less then. This is what the Lee Trevino story is. You don't know pressure until you're playing for $100 a hole and you have $90 in your pocket or whatever the hell the line is. So I'm betting money I don't have, and I don't even know what the hell I would have done. And I believe, I want to say it was a Bills-Patriots. So this would have been 96. I got to look this up. I know it was the Bills. I know that. And it was a Sunday night game. And I'm pretty sure it was the Patriots. and I think I bet the Bills. Obviously I don't. Well, I shouldn't say obviously, but I don't remember the spread. All I know is I was sitting there with my girlfriend. I'm sure this had to be such a turn on for her too. Probably like with my lip trembling, going, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have this kind of money. And I went double or nothing, like a straight up mark.
Yep.
Double or nothing on the Bills. Probably the favorite too. I mean, just like the squariest of square in a weekend of
PD
squares
Public.
getting hammered. And somehow, I believe it was either James Lofton or Andre Reed, two of the great receivers for those Bills teams, even though that was past the Four Falls of Buffalo, but still they were around, I believe. And, I mean, with seconds left, scores a long touchdown, and I cover.
Oh, wow.
And I remember, I think I probably was like on the floor, for real, of the Sigma Chi frat house in Columbia, Missouri, 500 South College Avenue to you, Russ. And, like my heart starts pounding now thinking about it. It's like to think, like, what are the chances of something? Like, it's like when you're talking about, like, if somebody had the under on the Mets-Diamondbacks game you're talking about, and somehow it didn't cover. I had that kind of,
Yeah, man.
I would love to, I'm sure I have the one bad beat in poker, not that anybody gives a damn about these, but it was a World Series of Poker event. It was in St. Louis, though. It wasn't the Las Vegas one, so they call those circuit events. And a guy, I had pocket aces pre-flop. He had pocket kings. The money gets in pre-flop. Nobody did anything wrong. And because it would have been a flush for me if a king of, like, hearts came off, only the king of spades could have beat me, and it came off on the river, and I got knocked out of the tournament. Otherwise, I'd have been the chip leader. But, you can't really complain about losing in gambling. It's like Edgar Renteria said to me in the clubhouse one day, Jackson. A man who got by his entire major league career telling people he didn't speak English. And yet in this moment, in around 2004, I was probably complaining about losing like $10 in a game to a guy who made, $10 like every half second. Probably like Steve Klein or something, because I can't imagine talking to anybody else in that clubhouse about this. And Edgar Renteria, apropos of nothing, and also candidly startling because for 5 years we didn't think he spoke English, goes, "You know why you lost, don't you?" And I go, "Oh, Edgar, no habla español." You gambled. And I'm like, wow, this is like E.F. Hutton here. This guy hasn't spoken in 5 years, and then he decided to.
Pops up with the most prophetic thing you could ever think
like,
of.
oh, look at this. That's why he's El Presidente or El Capitan, whatever the hell they called him. Yeah. If you're betting, you're probably not winning.
Yeah.
That's essentially the bottom line on the.
You got to be able to die if you want to live, and that's what gambling is. You can't.
Wow, look at you!
You're not gonna.
You're the Edgar Renteria of Balloon Party. I've decided.
Oh, for so many reasons, I'll ground out of a World Series. I don't care.
Wow.
I'll do it twice if I have to.
Wow, look at that.
But
yeah, he did. He finished off 2 World Series. That's a fun. How many guys have that on their resume? One to win one and one to lose one.
Yeah, I can't imagine anyone having anything like that.
It's when you stumble into trivia, sports talk radio guy.
Yeah, that's the fourth guy. That's the fourth one.
I'll have to text Martin and let him know we found a fourth guy.
On the fourth guy. It rolls into sports
trivia. All right,
trivia.
I'll read your horrific bad beat stories coming up in the final segment. That BK and Ferrario. This is Balloon Party on 101 ESPN. Welcome back. This is Balloon Party 101 ESPN. Well, when there's breaking Blues news, Jackson Burkett is your source, and Jackson has it for you.
I do. Well, it's gray skies here in St. Louis at the moment, but sunshine is coming out because Oskar Sundqvist has signed a 2-year contract extension with the Blues worth $3 million. That's $1.5 million AAV.
Thank you, Jeremy Rutherford. Thank you for the delicious news.
Yeah. So it might be, like I said, gray skies, but things are...
You're going back to this.
Well, in case people like recycling on and off.
Right.
There's sunshine in the forecast.
Sunny.
Because Oskar Sundqvist will be a Blue.
Right.
For another couple
of years. You keep going
years.
sunshine.
Sunquist. Sunshine.
Sunny is the nickname.
I'll thirst your quench for sun with Sunquist.
What just happened?
I don't know.
What just happened on this program?
I don't know.
Oskar Sundqvist. I know I'm asking you, and it's pointless, but do you think Buchnevich is traded before the trade deadline?
I mean, I have as good a guess as anybody.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. You know what? That's true.
Yeah, I'll say yes.
I hope so. This was talk about that Nonling, former producer on TMA, now took a step down and is an attorney. But he sent me this from dailyfaceoff.com last night. And said sources said GM Doug Armstrong has let interested teams know that he is willing to, quote, get creative and potentially retain as much as half on a player like Buchnevich, bumping him down to just $2.9 million next season, which is an incredible bargain for a point-per-game player. But it would come at a price. Armstrong was reportedly looking for 1 first-round pick and 1 first-round pick equivalent, and retaining would force a team to add in 1 more premium top-level asset. So who could be in the mix? And then they list off Buchnevich's former team, the Rangers, the Avalanche, the Hurricanes, the Oilers, and VGK. So we'll find out. Jeremy Rutherford is with the team as they take on the Devils tonight. Trade deadline tomorrow at 2 p.m. Jamie Rivers, loyal Balloon Party listener, texted me to let me know they are to stay in one hotel in Manhattan all week. Go out to Long Island, back to Manhattan, over to New Jersey, back to Manhattan. And then, we're going to go a few blocks over and go to the Garden. And then we'll get on the plane and head up to Boston.
Is a New York-style pizza your preferred style of pizza?
Well, as you know, I'm a meat and potatoes guy and a proletariat, and whatever is St. Louis is the best to me, and therefore I'm thin crust through and through.
Right, but if we're actually talking here, is it your favorite?
I love Pizza Go-Go on the South Side.
Yeah, I would say it's more New York style.
But, there are a lot of truly, Biggie's.
Yeah. I love St. Louis style as well. But I think that New York style is just superior. It's just standard
you think
pie.
Everything in a jurisdiction that can see the ocean is superior.
Yeah. What about, a really dirty river? And 2 dirty rivers?
I don't like what I feel like you're implying.
I was talking about New York. The Hudson in the East.
Yeah, nicely done. Jackson, we've got a bunch of bad beat stories sent in. How about this? Somebody lost a bunch of money with Antonio Freeman catching a ball on his back. I believe that was a Packers-Bears Monday night game. That one, that wouldn't predate you, though. I think that was in the aughts.
Okay.
Let's see, Dan Campbell's horrible going for it instead of taking the 3 points totally changed the outcome and bets all around. I got hosed big time. Parlay, quarter bets, drive bets. It's from the 314. I actually found the game I was talking about when I told what wound up being good story, where I had double or nothing on the Bills. I gather the Bills had to be getting points because they wound up losing 28-25. This game is actually known historically, and it happened to be the game where I went double or nothing and was just totally irresponsible. I found the game on Pro Football Reference. It was October 27th, 1996. I gather I had to have the Bills plus 3.5. That's what it's telling me here. This was a year the Patriots went to the Super Bowl. This was pre-Belichick dynasty. This is with Parcells, and they wound up losing to Brett Favre. Desmond Howard MVP, I believe. So anyway, Bills are on the road, and they are getting 3.5 points. Well, good news, Jackson, for those of you who have the Bills and 3.5 points. It's late in the football game, and, Buffalo is leading this thing by a score of 18-15. Everything looks good. Patriots now with the ball after a Chris Moore punt, and they have it with 2:47 left. and they are giving, we're going to say 3.5. Patriots score a touchdown. Adam Vinatieri misses the extra point, so I'm still covering. It's 21-18. Woot, woot!
Yep.
That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing at 500 South College Avenue in Columbia, Missouri. 65201, brother.
6'5"?
I think so. Well, here's Drew Bledsoe. He hadn't lost his job yet. Tom Brady was still in Ann Arbor.
Mm-hmm.
He drops back to pass, trailing 21-18. Oh, sweet mother of mercy. Jim Kelly, is picked off by Thurman on a pass for Thurman Thomas, intercepted by Willie McGinnis and returned pick 6, 46 yards. And now I'm not covering. It's 27-18. Vinatieri makes the extra point this time, 28-18. There's 41 seconds left.
Hope is lost.
Oh, I can't even imagine what I was doing.
Hope is lost.
Now this is why this sticks with me nearly 30 years. 41 seconds left. Bills, Andre Reed from Jim Kelly, 48 yards for a meaningless touchdown, and they lose 28-25. So they scored 3 touchdowns in 2 minutes and 47 seconds.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have, if you think I'm tiny now, imagine if my legs were broken in 1996.
It'd be a stump hosting this radio show.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, I remember the Andre Reed touchdown. I didn't realize all that went on.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Ooh. I'm telling you.
Sometimes the meaningless touchdown or basket or goal in
Changes
hockey,
a gentleman's life.
it can mean nothing to you watching it. If you got nothing on it, it can mean the world to some poor sap out there who's got
in Columbia, Missouri,
the
in a
mortgage.
basement of a frat house.
Yeah.
BK and Ferrari are coming up next for Jackson Burkett. I'm Tim McKernan. This has been Balloon Party on 101 ESPN.